Hello everyone, this is False Mind Reads here, and today I'm here to talk to you about Laws and Book of the Fallen, Book 9, Dust of Dreams. So, this book is tough, because I liked everything except for one major plotline of the book. And when I mean major, I mean basically the entirety of Part 3, aside from a few diversions. I liked, some things that I've heard. I was watching a video just right now, just to collect my thoughts, and the guy was talking about how he didn't really like reading about the snake. He didn't like reading about Ikariam and his travelers. He didn't like reading about all this stuff. And I was like, I guess Ikariam and his travelers were they weren't not interesting though. They were fine, but they weren't not interesting. It's always interesting when Ikariam's on screen because he's Ikariam Lifestealer, one of the most mysterious characters in all of the Malazan world. And the snake, oh my god, the snake. I was reading this book on the bus, and when I tell you it almost made me tear up reading some of the snake portions. It's insane writing. It's masterful writing. I thought it was well done. And not every word, every page was riveting. It was emotionally engaging for me. And then you have the Bone Hunter's 700-page stay in Lether, which was painful, but it ended. That's all I gotta say. It ended. But there's 700-page. The opening to this book is so good. It's probably one of the best openings in any Malazan book because it just jumps right into it. You finish book 8, which is kind of a slow, and then a great ending, right? This book jumps right into it. It dashes and then just starts walking. And it's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Part 3, with the white face Barghast, really challenged me. I wanted to finish. I started this book September 20th. It is now November 1st. Is it still the 1st? It's still the 1st. It's November 1st. I finished this earlier tonight, on November 1st. And Part 3 is mainly why it took me so long, because I would pick this up, I would read a few pages, I would put it down, and then I would go to the washroom, and in there I'd read a few pages, or read 1 or 2 pages, and then I would put it down, and I was struggling. But I got through it. And I will say this, as with most things that I dislike in Malazan books, it's ultimately necessary. Every page in this book matters. Even though they're massive books, most of it is necessary to fully understand the themes, and he's not just putting any little thing in there. Weirdly enough. But Part 3's ending was so really it was the first chapter of Part 3. I think it's chapter 12, where it's the chapter where they introduce a lot of the Barghasts. Maybe not introduce, but they feature prominently, and they go from Tool looked over at blank face, and then he looked over at blanker face, and then and it's when they start speaking and thinking for themselves, and it's oh my god, this is a lot. 1, it's a lot. 2, I don't care for these characters. I only care for Tool, Hatan, and the kids. And maybe Torrent, but Torrent was later on. And I guess Kafkal, I only care for the immediate family of Tool. I don't care about these guys. And then they and then you hear about tribes defecting, and you're oh, damn, those tribes defecting. Good. Those guys are the good guys. Those guys were this is kind of stupid. Let's go do something before we get ourselves all riled up. And yeah, that really kicked my ass. That part kicked my ass. But everything else was really good. Like, I know in book 8, I have an unpopular opinion. I really like the Minimander Gullet plotline, and in book 9, I really like the Snake plotline. I think it's one of the best plotlines. I think another thing worth mentioning is, who is it? It's Knuckles and Errant and Kilomandros. Kilomandros for a long time was like a really weird character, because I use the wiki for this, and I try to avoid spoilers best where I can. But like during early on, when Kilomandros was still kind of like a name, just a name and like a concept, we didn't see her, we didn't know what she was. I was like, who is she? And then you go on it, and how you know a character is important or someone likes them a lot is if there's fan art, and there was like a really good art thing, a really good piece of art on her wiki page, and I was like, why is she so important? She's never been mentioned. She's like, and then, you know, book 7, it's revealed that or book 5 or 7, it's revealed that she killed Scabardi Bloodeye, and it's like, okay, cool. So she's like a background character. No, but I mean, it's fine. I like, that's the second weakest plotline for me. Like when I'm reading it, was the Errant. I was like, okay, because like it's really funny. I don't like the Errant. I thought he was interesting in book 5. I think his like, well, the whole thing with him is that he was passive and like just letting everything go by him, passing by him, like let life pass by him. But I completely like, you know, like, because he was letting everything bounce off him, I bounced off him too in the 5th book, and I was like, okay, cool. Oh, okay, cool. He's the god. Cool. And then in book 7, obviously, he takes that shift into from passive into active, and then I was like, man, I know Featherwitch is evil now, but I still remember her early book 5. Like, she was cool. She was cool. And then they got into that toxic relationship, let's just say. And then I was like, you bastard, you bitch, you are a bitch, Errant. And he continues to be a bitch in this book too. But it's so funny watching the other elder gods, even the people who he looks down upon, like Kilomandros and Knuckles. It's so funny watching them be like, at least we're not that guy. We might have been hiding under the ocean, but at least we're not that guy. Like, no one likes him, bro. He's like the scapegoat. Which, you know what? Good. I'm glad he's the scapegoat. But the ending to this book, it's not my favorite ending, because it really isn't an ending. It's more like, because so usually endings in these books, you have a few types, but my favorite ones are the character endings, where like a character specifically will reach a high point in their story, and then usually all that happens at once. So you got, the ending is not just one massive roller coaster, it's more like a lot of smaller roller coasters that kind of like go right into each other, and it's still good, it's still like exhilarating, but it's not like one big thing and then it's done. And this was 2 big things. It went cool, or yeah, I don't know, just the Kachan Nuruk were not like, I mean, they're cool. I think that I forgot why I was so interested in the Kachan Nuruk, or like the Kachan Chamal, because like, you know, you kind of get used to them being just dinosaurs, but they're technologically advanced dinosaurs, and then you learn like about them in this book, and it's such a, how does he do it? How does he do it? Like, I feel I have some controversial opinions about Malazan. Like, bro, this series, unless it completely shits the bed in book 10, which I doubt it will, which I know it won't. So, but this series might be the best fantasy series ever written. It probably is. I haven't read that many, so I can't really say for certain. But I just get this sneaking suspicion that I kind of made not a mistake, but like, if you read the best thing first, everything else is gonna kind of seem duller in your eyes, and I think I might have done that. I think I might have read the best fantasy series right at the start of my fantasy series reading career, and I'm gonna have to live with that. Good thing is, I can always reread it, but as I come to the end of my journey with Malazan, Book of the Fallen specifically, because the world is, I'm going to still read every book in the world, like Sam Malazan. But this is a unique experience, right? 10 books is a lot. 6 books is a lot, but 10 books of this length is a lot. And as I come to the end, it's been over a year since I started reading. I'm just kind of like, I'm just in awe. That's all I can say. I'm just blown away. Because over the past year, I've been constantly, whenever I read these books, it's constant shock, it's constant awe at writing itself. And it's just, I've read book series before. I've read Game of Thrones. I've read The Witcher. I've read a few book series. Not many, but I've read a few. And no single book has shocked me as much as Malazan books have. And no single book series has continuously shocked me as much as Malazan has. Dust of Dreams, perhaps more than most, will have moments that stick in my mind, because when all the dust is settled, the things I remember from these books a year later is not the minutia of the character arcs, it's the moments of thematic resonance, when everything lines right up, and it's like the stars align. And I get it. I'm reading it and I get it, or I'm reading it, I put it down, and then I get it a bit later. But it's the things that stick in my mind. And this one, it's always gonna be that moment on the bus. I'm sitting there reading it, and I don't know what's going on, but I'm reading the words, and my heart starts hurting, and I'm like, these children are suffering. And the thing is, this is fiction, but children are suffering just in general, all around the world, all the time, and we can't stop it. And the brain's good at shutting that valve off, the fact that people die every second. The brain's pretty good at making you forget that. But sometimes you remember it and you're like, well, yeah, but I'm not going to actually conceptualize the death of children too far so I don't mess myself up for the day, the week. You know what I mean? But something poignant comes along and it forces that valve open. And you're just rendered speechless by the fact that, well, no, there might not be walking through a desert of glass, a giant train of thousands of children. There are still countries. I live in a country that has suffering children. I think every country has suffering children, and the fact that around the world there aren't just thousands of suffering children, there are millions. It's that quote from Deadhouse Gates. Yeah, Deadhouse Gates. Children are dying. The injustice of the world can be summed up in those words. Children are dying. Even just thinking back on it, it's it's hard. Especially in today's age of social media, before social media, and before like a lot of news, like international news coverage, we didn't see much of that. Like, people didn't see that. And so when they read stuff about, like, suffering, like, I just feel uniquely positioned in the time that we live in to not to understand, but to fully integrate the feeling that he was obviously pouring into this book. And it, like, I understand, I can interface with the book properly because of the time I live in. And I'm thankful for that, because, well, if I had read this in 2009, I would be like 6, but also, it's an amazing book. It's an amazing book. I will always feel bad for the people who do not get Malazan, because they are missing out on some of the best books ever. And that's okay. I'm going to call time on the Malazan video. The Malazan videos are always hard for me to record because it's really not about, like, the books. Like, I like the fantasy stuff and such, but what really drives me to read all these massive books is the discussion is really how our reality is reflected in these pages of fantasy. Well, fantasy is escapism, yes. A real person had to sit down and think these things and put them through the lens. So if you just kind of nudge the lens off, you see what it's based on. And that's what's really hard about these reviews is, like, okay, Fiddler did that. I like reading about Fiddler, but, like, the thing that sticks with me isn't isn't the moment where Fiddler gets tackled and gets arrested. It's the moments of profound emotion that hit me and stay with me. And it's hard recording these because I have to sit down and be like, not pretend to care, but pretend to, like, really, it's hard to explain. But I just, it's those moments of thematic resonance that I love these books for. When everything just works and just comes together, and you are just left in tears, maybe emotional, like, maybe not like actual tears, but maybe like inner tears. So, yeah, that's my Dusted Dreams review. I liked the book. I disliked a little bit of the book, but I liked the book a lot. I liked the book a lot. I get it. I remember not getting Malazan for the first 3 books. I didn't get it. I don't think I really started getting it until, like, book 7. Truly. Like, I didn't get the whole compassion thing. I read the ending of book 3 and I was like, why the fuck did they let that guy go? Kill him. And now I'm sitting here like, well, that's exactly book 3 is just the whole series of microcosm. It's the whole series in one book. It's the identification of a problem. It's the searching for a solution to that problem and finding out that the problem isn't actually the solution isn't violence. It's compassion, and that's the whole series of microcosm. If I had to hedge my bets on the Crippled Gods ending, it's something like, yo, dude, you shouldn't be suffering as much as you are, dog. Here, we're gonna, like, loosen your chains a little bit, or we're gonna, like, put you in a nice spa where you can at least be comfortable while you suffer. Something like that. Something like reuniting the Panion seer, or anyways, Panion with his sister. It was his sister. Something like that. If I had to guess. But I didn't get it. And now I get it. I know I'm forced to confront the fact that, like, I get these books and they're so good. And I didn't get the earlier ones, man. I did not get them. I have to go back and reread them soon, but I don't want to just read Malazan the rest of my life. So I have to give it a bit of time, and then I have to find my way back to it, and I have to let the process happen naturally because it doesn't work otherwise. I gotta find my way back to Malazan. I'm just hoping it's soon. Soon enough. Anyhow, thank you for watching. Leave a like, subscribe to False Mind Reads. Thank you all for watching. Bye bye.